2, 1, 2. Yo, Donald Trump is not playing games. He has nominated Dr. Bhattacharya to head the NIH. This is what a timeline that we live in. What a roller coaster ride. It hurts that I've felt the need that I've had to criticize Donald Trump very strongly, and that's not going to stop. But this is a good moment. I had concerns about some of his, well, basically all of his nominations, basically all of them, RFK being my favorite of the bunch because the position he's in, head of human health and human services, doesn't have as much to do. It does have a little bit, but not as much to do with the foreign policy. So I thought he was good there. The guy who wrote The Real Anthony Fauci as head of HHS, I'm good with that. That's a good nomination on any spectrum. But then you have the bad ones out there. Today is a day for me to give thanks, and Life to the Max says, yo, happy Thanksgiving, Osiris, and I say it right back. And what are you grateful for? What do you talk to your children about, your spouse about, your family about around the time of Thanksgiving? What are you grateful for? And even with my problems with Donald Trump, still grateful for what he was and looks like what he still is to a certain extent. This is a different Donald Trump. We're seeing a different Donald Trump. He is making different moves. And this one here, this is a one topic live. We're going to deep dive on this. I'm going to give you the reaction first. We're going to relive the COVID regime timeline. I'm actually grateful for the COVID regime timeline. It woke me up. It forced me to have very difficult, I don't want to say difficult, but very poignant conversations with my wife. And that really shows where are we at in this. Okay, I'm masking up. At that time, he was 2 years old, I believe. Masking up. What are we doing here? How long are we doing this for? What are we doing? How are we parents here? Are we just obedient to the state? What is this? Those type of discussions that make us, to me, better people. I would never have found out. I don't know if I would have ever found out about Eric July, Comic Dave Smith, Michael Malice, Tom Woods, all these people who were great on the pandemic around that time. And one of the great ones was Dr. Bhattacharya. That's what we're going to talk about today. What's up? Keep them accountable and celebrate the good. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Life to the Max is talking about Donald Trump. We don't do any cult worship here, and we don't do any cult, dissing here. I don't give a damn what. It's about the positions. Dr. Bhattacharya, let's look at the reactions. I think some of the core people who would be watching this channel already know, but if you don't worry. I will break it down more in depth. But let's just start off with some of the reactions here. And it's all positive from the right people that I see. I said, if we're going to, this is a little sidetrack, but if we are going to criticize, and just to be clear, I have not criticized the Mises Caucus libertarians or any libertarians that decided to vote for Trump over Chase Oliver. I didn't criticize them for making that decision. I do obviously criticize Trump, but I don't say, oh, Comic Dave Smith, what are you doing? Why would you he's not a libertarian. That's not my position here. But for anybody who did question, and if that's what you want to do, that's fair. If you questioned Comic Dave Smith, he's the #1 libertarian, in my opinion, in the country. He said, I'm not voting for the Libertarian Party candidate who was bad on COVID, a wokeist, ran as a Democrat, had terrible takes on race, civil liberties, a lot of terrible situations there with Chase Oliver. Even I don't dislike him as a person. I don't like him as a candidate. So Dave Smith and many others said they're going to vote for Donald Trump. And this applies to everyone. So this is not just a libertarian take. If you're going to criticize somebody who voted for Donald Trump because of some of these bad picks, and I don't even remember the name of the Surgeon General pick. We're just looking at the quotes from, was it Janet, whatever. She's irrelevant now. I want to see Jay does have to get confirmed. I don't believe the Janet, I don't even know how to pronounce her name, Nesowit. I don't even think she has to be confirmed. I forget. I'll have to look that up. But Jay Wood, I think he's going to get through, or you're going to see. It's a beautiful chess move by Trump. If Jay doesn't get through, or there's in danger there, he has nothing like Matt Gaetz with these, what you could call a fake scandal, or even Hegseth with the kind of spicy details of the affairs and stuff. He doesn't have any of that. And what does that have to do with anything anyway? But he doesn't have any of that. So I don't see how he's not going to get through. I don't care about Janet Nesowet, because you got the guy who wrote The Real Anthony Fauci, and then now you got Jay Bhattacharya. That's good enough. That woman whose sister's Miss USA, former Miss USA or whatever, she's irrelevant in this picture at this point. So Trump nominates him. If you're going to criticize somebody who supports Trump, and then Trump nominates Marco Rubio, who's just swamp filth and other swamp filth, Waltz and others, just trash picks. Even Hegseth he's anti-woke, but he's not anti-war, that's for sure. If you're going to criticize that, if you're going to be fair, you've got to, or if you're going to criticize Trump himself, you've got to give him credit when the pick looks good. And I've got two picks that I do like. I do like RFKJ in his position. I do like the Jay Bhattacharya picks. Those are probably the only two that I like that have to be confirmed. Let's take a look at the reaction here. Tell me, what's your reaction? Asael Smith. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, as everyone who kind of watches the channel knows. I remember we had Dr. Shiva Aradore, who's going to come up later in this. We've got Indians, kind of Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, Dr. Shiva Ayadore, Vivek Ramaswamy, but got some Indian men stepping up. But by the end of the time, I kept butchering his name because I forgot how I was pronouncing it. I know how to pronounce it now, obviously. But at the end, he's like, nigga, door, nigga. But Asael Smith says, good pick. Feeling the pick. Good. Says, Asael Smith says, the wrong people are losing their mind on Jay. That's a good sign. It's not the only sign. We're going to do the whole breakdown, but I agree completely. When the wrong people are mad, that's not bad. It's definitely not a bad thing. So Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, Stanford physician and economist, known for his critique of the COVID-19 policies, has been nominated by President-elect Donald Trump to lead the National Institutes of Health. Bhattacharya gained recognition for opposing stringent lockdown measures during the pandemic and co-authored the Great Barrington Declaration. His selection has elicited a mix of support and criticism, reflecting the polarized views on his public health perspectives. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya responded and said he had an interview, basically, or a discussion with RFKJ, and RFKJ, it sounds like, said, based on Washington Post, I believe, had the article, said, that's my man. He replied and said, I am honored and humbled by President Donald Trump's nomination of me to be the next NIH director. This is surreal. We will reform. Well, I'm ad-libbing here. He didn't say surreal, but we will reform American scientific institutions so that they are worthy of trust again, and will deploy the fruits of excellent science to make America healthy again. If this is what Maha means, I still need that spelled out. I'm on board with this. Way more than the seed oil stuff. And RFK, I don't know what RFKJ is going to do. I think a lot of us, including myself, are jumping to conclusions. RFK has never said anything definitive of banning something or anything like that. He just let his opinion be known. And in fact, that's what I said these departments are supposed to do. I'm fine with them giving their opinion. That's all. They shouldn't be doing anything. They shouldn't be giving any recommendations for lockdowns or for anything. I don't want any recommendations. They should have studies, and here's what the study says, and you do what you do with that. So he had a brief statement there. Donald Trump said he's thrilled to nominate him. And this backs up Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump on Truth. This backs up Donald Trump's position where he's always said, I'm for big pharma. I'm putting that on Donald Trump. He is clearly pro-big pharma, pro-fascism with Operation Warp Speed. But Donald Trump has also said he's anti-lockdown. And this nominating Jay is consistent with that take. So I give Donald Trump credit for that. We want science to be non-political. Absolutely. And Jay's all about that. There should be no politics in science. And that's what we came down to. Can you believe it? I'm going to go through the timeline. We have to relive some of this. This is in a good way. I don't want to relive it in with no purpose. This has purpose to give context to why would I care about Jay Bhattacharya? What are we doing with this live? I did a live, put him on the thumbnail. Nobody even knows who he is. Why would we talk about this? We'll do that. Donald Trump says, I'm thrilled to nominate Jay Bhattacharya, MD, PhD, to serve as director of the National Institutes of Health. He will work in cooperation with RFKJ to direct the nation's medical research and make important discoveries that will improve health and save lives. Jay is a professor of health policy at Stanford, research associate at the National Bureau of Economics Research, and a senior fellow by courtesy of the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research. Stanford Freeman Spogli Institute, I might have butchered that, and the Hoover Institution. He directs Stanford's Center for Demography and Economics of Health and Aging. That's the only other thing I know him for was his aging studies or takes on that. His research focuses on the health and well-being of vulnerable populations, emphasizing the role of government programs, biomedical innovation, and economics. Jay is a co-author of the Great Barrington Declaration. That is surreal to see a president holler and put that up there. There were people in Trump's administration that did like the Barrington Declaration, just like Ron DeSantis did. But Trump was under a lot of pressure. There was a lot of conflicting things. There was a lot of people undermining him. Collins, Fauci, others. He ended it by saying, together, Jay and RFK Jr. will restore the NIH to a gold standard of medical research as they examine underlying causes of and solutions to America's biggest health challenges, including our crisis of chronic illness and disease. Together, they will work hard to make America healthy again. It's a great statement there from Donald J. Trump. Somebody was triggered by, I forgot who it was. Somebody said it was triggering to hear people to say President Donald J. Trump. I don't know. They said it was cultish. I didn't get that. So we're going to go into the details here, and they only have 4 years, and really, is it 4 years? It's 4 years, but you can kind of lay the foundation for this to be more than 4 years. It could be laying a foundation for it. It would have to be J.D. Vance. I mean, you couldn't have somebody, if Trump had a successful 4 years, you basically have to go with the VP no matter what the VP did. So I think it's technically possible. Somebody tell me, is it technically possible that J.D. Vance could take over as president in 2028 and retain? I don't think you have to. Do they have somebody look that up for me? I'll have to look that up. If I don't know if you would want them or if they would want to or not, but maybe Jay could stay on longer. We'll see how he goes. I want to jump ahead, but yeah, let's take a look at my first thing that I want to do is go through the timeline. Let's look at a little bit more reactions before I go through the timeline of the COVID. RFKJ weighs in, says, I'm so grateful to President Donald Trump for a spectacular appointment. Dr. J. Bhattacharya is the ideal leader to restore NIH as the international template for gold standard science and evidence-based medicine. Was it ever? I never really paid attention to it until the pandemic, so I don't know. But it sounds like RFKJ thinks it has been in the past. So we'll see. Kelly Mean says, what a bold, transformative pick by Donald Trump for NIH director. There is nobody better in America with the intellect, first principle thinking. I love first principle thinking. That's Elon Musk. Man, that's some good stuff. When first, how would you describe first principle thinking? Is if you have a pandemic, the first thing that you think about is health-wise are things that are easy to control. When the pandemic came, I don't even know if you could talk about exercise, vitamin D, or any type of alternative. I don't know if you still can on YouTube. While I'm on YouTube, I don't know what you can and can't say on YouTube. But that's first principle thinking. First principle thinking isn't jumping to some mRNA vaccine. That's not a first principle thinking. Not that it wouldn't be a part of the process or thinking, but it would be way down the road, and it would be a concern if it's not fully tested. So first principle thinking and moral clarity to get the NIH back to foundational science. Everything flows from good research. And wokeness, this is a heck of a story. In wokeness, Dr. J. Bhattacharya went from being on a Twitter blacklist. This is from the Twitter files, remember? They had all the little details. Recent abuse strike for his opinion. Trends blacklist, making sure that he could not trend, just like Charlie Kirk and others. That's not legal. Why have we not seen any accountability for that? All the way to fast forward now, Trump picks lockdown critic to top health agency. If you want to kind of make sacrifices, whatever those sacrifices may be, to vote for and support Donald Trump, this is the type of payoff that you need. This is the type of payoff that you want. This is the type of payoff that you expect. This is the type of payoff that you need. Let's listen to this clip. I saw this. This is from Colin Rugg. Let's listen to this clip from Jay Bhattacharya himself.
I think the question is, why is the Biden administration still using its leverage to protect Dr. Fauci and his reputation? Why is that a major goal of the Biden administration's policies?
He's still the golden boy, Dr. Fauci, of so many communities in the United States that have sworn a political allegiance to maintain political apartheid in America, so that scientists who believe in a lab leak are separate. They're separate but equal, maybe not even separate but equal, but they do not go to the same panels. They are not invited to the same editorial boards. They don't have the same rights in publishing and in science. It's I don't know if you saw this. This is delicious. Did you guys see this? Rochelle Walensky just last week, receives the Anthony B. Fauci Courage and Leadership Award from the Infectious Diseases Society of America.
I'm frankly stunned. I mean,
That just so you're clear, that's Dr. J. Bhattacharya here.
I guess suppose it does take some measure of courage to say things that are entirely contrary to reality confidently, and know that you're going to somehow fool half the country into believing that you're right. And Rochelle Walensky, I think, fully deserves an award. I mean, in some sense, it's quite fitting that she get an award with his name on it.
That's a great clip. Yeah, it takes a little bit of courage to lie and know you're lying, but to fool half the country, or install fear in half the country to the point where they don't want to speak up. He's like, maybe you should get an award for that. I think it should be more in the lane of like an Oscar or something like that for acting, a Golden Globe or something like that. But I feel him there. Let's take a look at the timeline. Reliving the timeline of the craziest time period ever. I'm going to put my sources in the links, and it's very easy. I'm using Perplexity. I'll use other tools as well. ChatGPT has a search, but I still like Perplexity the best. And I'll put stuff in there. So there is a link in the description if you want to see the sources in this video. All of them, basically all. I think every single source that I'm using is in that link in the description. Let's look at the timeline. If you want to see the timeline, it's in that description as well. February of 2020, I remember it very well. I actually got sick in December of 2019. I don't get sick too often. And maybe we'll get like a flu once a year or something like that at the most. And I felt it was weird in December where I was working at the time. Everybody was going down with the flu in December of 2019. Never forget it. It was going around. And this wasn't like a norm, people always say, oh, it's going around. No, not like when people just say that. No, it was going around. People were not dropping literally like flies, but they were dropping like flies. Like, this is for real. To the point where everybody's like, this is different. And it happened to me, and it was very quick. I was, got the fever type symptoms. I was kind of knocked out for like a day, and then, recovered the next day. It was pretty quick. I don't know if that was the pandemic. I don't know if that was COVID or not, but it was right before. And then everything started popping off. And I believe I used to have the date memorized. I think it was March is when I got sent home from work. And they were like, we're going to work from home. And I was like, for how long? And they're like, permanently. I'm like, whoa. And I don't know if they're back at work there, but many places have gone back to the office because it was all, I want to be careful what I say about it. It was not properly assessed, in my opinion. And it was a crazy time. I remember I went into work and they just said, hey, we got a bunch of computers here. Grab the computer and go home. And we're like, wait a second. And it was like, you have to go teach your people how to use the computer too. I was like, oh, wow. We didn't even stay. It was just one day. I think it was March 20th. And went home. That was a crazy time. You're looking at the news all the time. I remember leading up to it, people were talking about, hey, you seen this stuff about this COVID-19 and stuff? And I think around then is when we saw the CCP videos coming out where it was like people were dropping, like they were dying. Or the videos where they were just walking and they would just flop over? What kind of propaganda was that? So I was looking at that and I'm like, I don't see that here. What's happening? Around the same time, we saw, before the 15 days to slow the spread, we saw video from Italy. I believe Italy was locked down. Italy was the one that I remember. I believe they were locked down before us in the States. Not every state locked down, but before the blue areas locked down for sure, and even the whack red areas. we saw Italy. They were locked down, and they were singing. They were singing out the balcony. And that, I would never forget that. That's one of there's so many vivid memories. I will never forget in Italy, them singing out of the balcony because they couldn't leave their homes. I was like, why are we doing that? And then I remember I was like, no, those videos went viral. I've played them on the channel. They call them quarantines. Here's one from The Guardian. This is the one that I've played on the channel before. This is from The Guardian, where they're in the balcony singing from the balcony. I don't think this has been properly addressed yet. They had niggas locked down where they were singing they were singing basically almost like slavery, kind of hymns and tunes out of their balcony. Naples coming together because they can't leave the house. Like a parent. The government was like a parent and said, you're grounded. That's what happened. So people are playing opera music and all kinds of... They created their own music in certain areas. You remember this? I remember seeing this type of footage like, wait a second. I've never heard this before. Yeah, it's not funny. I remember asking my wife, she's more in the scientific field, not with health like this, but she knows science. And I said, I don't know, this doesn't make sense to me, this lockdown thing. I'm not a scientist, but explain it to me. And she couldn't explain it. Now, she wanted to explain it, and it didn't work for me. I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. Why you would lock down. And then even beyond that, in America, that's when the 15 days to slow the spread came out. And then I started thinking, is this constitutional? What's happening right now? Then I saw doctors, I think it was doctors or nurses having beef. I forget what happened. The hospitals were getting kind of piled up because they had the sniffles and they would go to the hospital because the news had like I think they had the death tickers. They might have had the death tickers at that point because they were counting 1, 2, 3. They almost had the death tickers at that point. And there was some you might remember the footage where some person was at the hospital and then they blocked the cars from coming in. I forget what was going on at the time. And I was like, this is civil unrest. So you have people locked down. They're getting restless. So this is before I'm leading into the Great Barrington Declaration. Please let me get there. I haven't even fleshed this out, this pandemic stuff. It's deep. And I said, this is civil unrest. There's a cost. So that's when I first started thinking there's a cost to this. This is before I started the YouTube channel. This is right before I started the YouTube channel. I did not have a YouTube channel at this time. I think it happened maybe August of 2020. I think my YouTube channel came out right before the Great Barrington Declaration. And people are getting restless. And it's like, whoa, it was 15 days to slow the spread, and it just kept on going. Then Fauci was talking about masks, and then we started walking around wearing masks. I remember texting my brother, like, this is weird. Why am I going in the store with a mask? And, I started wearing it. Then I'm like, wait a second. These masks aren't even clean. I mean, I got a whole box of them, but it was hard to get them at first. So I don't even know if I had a box at first or not. But at this point, I had a box at some point. Everybody had boxes. And I'm like, but nobody's really checking, and you don't want anybody checking. But some people are using socks. What's happening here? That's not doing anything. Why are we wearing masks all over the place and hiding our identity? I remember texting my brother saying, I feel like I'm going in for like some type of crime or something like that. Why am I covering up my face like this? And nobody, you're in the store, nobody really talks to each other when they have the mask on. Some people still wearing those things. Lockdowns officially started, I think, in April. But I felt like lockdowns were earlier than that. Because I know I was sent home from work before the April. Lockdowns, the height of the lockdowns was April. Then you had the World Health Organization tweeting that there's no evidence of human-to-human transmission. That was April of 2020. This is the organization that YouTube, to my knowledge, is still tying. Why are they tying in censorship terms of service? To this day, they could probably pull this video for what? I'm just talking. What do you mean? Why would you pull a video? Why would you censor a video? Don't ever think that what you're saying doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't have to silence you. This trash organization, the World Health Organization, tweeted that there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission. Okay, well, that was a fail. Then May 2020 came, flatten the curve and wait for a vaccine. CDC inflated the COVID death numbers by including presumed cases. And that happened throughout the pandemic. I don't even know if we know the exact numbers to this date. They're presuming you died and you had it. You died of something completely. I remember looking at it, somebody died from a motorcycle accident and they said they tested positive. The test was a whole nother problematic part of this too. None of this really a lot of it couldn't be fleshed out. There were a few courageous ones like Eric July who got 2 or 3 strikes and fought the strikes and got them pulled, which was unbelievable, especially during that time. I don't know how he did it. He must have connects or I don't know what it was. He didn't do anything wrong, but he got, I remember he was like, I went back to back. I think he did back to back to back where they gave him strikes and he was very, very, very careful with what he said. But the WHO claimed that asymptomatic spread is very rare, meaning that if you weren't all sniffly or had some type of cough or some type of symptom, it was rare for it to be spread. That was another fail. So these are the people that we're supposed to listen to. Yeah, early on, maybe that's what they had, but that's why you can't, that's not the only reason why, but you can't build everything off of just what the WHO says. Health officials, this is what really triggered me before I started the channel. This is the event. You go on and talk with everybody. They say, well, why did you start a YouTube channel? June of 2020, health officials support Black Lives Matter protests despite lockdowns. The infamous headline, the infamous article. We were in lockdowns, then Black Lives Matter happened. And remember, I had seen earlier, and maybe a lot of you had seen, people were getting restless. People just wanted to get out the house. So it was an excuse. Nobody cared about George Floyd. Nobody gave a damn about him and his counterfeit 20 and his speedball or whatever he was doing. Nobody cares about that. What they cared about was getting out of the house. What a terrible moment for the country. Black Lives Matter came. Everybody was all over it. Everybody was pro Black Lives Matter. If you were against Black Lives Matter, you were kind of ostracized. This was at work while you're virtual at home. Nobody would say that. Nowadays, joke about it. You can say whatever you want. Everybody knows it's nonsense. Hydroxychloroquine became a big part of the conversation in July of 2020. Social media platforms censor discussions. That's a red flag. I wonder why they would censor those discussions. Because they're funded by Big Pharma. Later on, I came up with the drop, or I had the drop from somebody did a nice little mix on it. And remember, that's where the brought to you by Pfizer.
The 65th Grammy Awards is sponsored by Pfizer.
And that's a clip from a video of that's like 5 to 10 minutes of nothing but brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by guess who? By Pfizer. No wonder you can't criticize Pfizer, at least at the time. CDC reports only 6% of COVID deaths had no comorbidities. That was a big one. That was a fail. So what they're saying is only 6% were people that didn't have other issues. Mask mandates were going on into the summer. In the fall, CDC reversed their guidance on aerosol transmission. So they had to reverse their previous saying on it. Remember, everybody's spraying down their groceries. Big tech started their censorship, very heavy, September of 2020. This was when Trump was president. In October of 2020, this is when the Great Barrington Declaration was published, advocating focused protection. Now, before we continue on, let's take a look at the chat. Ray Studio says the WHO was spreading Chinese propaganda. And that's my opinion. And I agree with the homie Ray Studios. Free Breather says YouTube wouldn't dare pull down your video because you're black. Oh, no. I'm not black. Remember, to be black, you have to vote for the right person. Kamala Harris had a appearance, you could say, one of the first appearances I've seen since her concession speech, and she looked a hot mess. She looked worse than me doing a live at midnight. 2020 says, I'm behind listening at 1.5 speed. You're the man. Appreciate you. I think I'm better. You listen to it at 1.5. If you put me at 1.5 speed, I'm still slower than Destiny. So that's actually a good thing. So put it at 1.5. You probably put it at 2. Ray Infinity Show says, reminds me of the J6ers in solitary confinement singing the national anthem. Great comparison. He's talking to people getting locked down, and because of the proximity of the buildings, apartment type complex, and close living quarters, you bond through your window, you see your neighbor, and you start singing. Or you hear your neighbor, you start singing. Oh, Joe, what's up? Long time no see. This one I had to go live, man. This is a good one. Donald Trump, good nomination. It does save some face on things, but I don't even want to come from that angle. Just straight up respect for the nomination. Let's go into a little bit about some of the best quotes from Jay Bhattacharya. I think that would be a good place to start for kind of explaining why would I care, why would I be excited about him. Jay Bhattacharya, he said that the most compassionate approach that balances the risks and benefits of reaching herd immunity is to allow those who are at minimal risk of death to live their lives normally, to build up immunity to the virus through natural infection while better protecting those who are at higher risk. We call this focused protection. It's just common sense. At the time, that's what he wrote. So you finally got somebody who at the time had the right take involved. I don't even know if he flipped up even RFK has some contradictions in his, but I mean, his book makes up for it. But there's reports that he, mandated you get vaxxed to go to the party at his crib or whatever. And at first he was kind of promoting the vax, but that's like really early. Even DeSantis and everybody, a lot of people were like, because nobody knew what was really happening. Early on, by October 2020, DeSantis had the right take. Bhattacharya, I think, was right the whole time. Just very common sense stuff, nothing radical. I want to see them not confirm this one. That quote is from the Great Barrington Declaration. He co-authored it. Here's another quote. We have grave concerns about damaging physical and mental health impacts of the prevailing COVID-19 policies and recommend an approach we called focused protection. Same thing, kind of breaking it down, saying we have grave concerns. So he made it very definitive. It wasn't like maybe we should look at this or maybe we should think about this. No. It was definitive. You could see it. You could see it clear as day. And they signed off on it early on. To this day, I believe this video will now have a scarlet letter on it because I'm talking about the pandemic. That's not free speech. We're still in that same era. We're still in that same era. This could be a good start to turning it around, but we're still not out of this pandemic type of phase. We're still not out of it. There's still people talking about getting the vax and all that and not saying, hey, go talk to your doctor. Go talk to someone you trust. On the impacts of lockdowns, current lockdown policies are producing devastating effects on short and long-term public health. The results include lower childhood vaccination rates. You know, one of the weird things about this, when you're locked down, there was no baby boom. It was weird, wasn't it? If you're locked down, whatever you're doing, working from home, you're just at home more often, it looked like we saw divorce rates go up. We didn't see a baby boom from it. Worsening cardiovascular disease outcomes. People aren't walking as much. We already don't walk enough. I gained weight. You go back, look at my videos during the pandemic. A good probably 20 pounds heavier. A lot of people obviously did put on weight. Fewer cancer screenings, deteriorating mental health, leading to greater excess mortality in years to come, with the working class and younger members of society carrying the heaviest burden. You got young people with healthy, strong immune system, got them locked down. Missing graduation and prom and stuff like that you can't redo. Keeping these measures in place until a vaccine is available will cause irreparable damage, with the underprivileged disproportionately harmed. We know that vulnerability to death from pandemic is more than 1,000-fold higher in the old, and infirm that the young, indeed for children, COVID-19 is less dangerous than many other harms, including the flu. That's a quote from Dr. J. Bhattacharya. This quote from the Great Barrington Declaration showed that they had a lot of emphasis on accurately assessing risk across different age groups. What we got from Donald Trump's people was it's something that you have to do for the good of society. It's not breaking it down for different age groups or different levels of risk. It was about you do it good, you don't, you're bad. He talked about scientific debate and free expression. When scientists have spoken up against lockdown policy, there's been enormous pushback. You're endangering lives. Science cannot operate in an environment like that. I don't know all the answers to COVID. No one does. But science can't do its job in an environment where anyone who challenges the status quo gets shut down or canceled. That was November of 2020. He went on to talk about herd immunity, mental health again, public health aspect. You can easily see why I support J. Bhattacharya, just based on that alone. The courage that he showed, this is true courage at the time to say these things. What's the chance that he gets confirmed? Let's talk about that real quick. And then I'm going to end on my take. My big takeaway is going to be on Donald Trump. Let's look at his background. Oh, then I'm gonna talk about this here, and then talk about the 3 Indians, and then Donald Trump. I think that should cover it. The confirmation process for Bhattacharya will occur in the Senate. That's where all these cabinet positions will go. This isn't this isn't technically a cabinet position, but does have to get confirmed. You don't really have a Republican majority, but on paper you do. So that gives you somewhat of a chance. He has gotten a lot of support from a lot of online influencers, a lot of the base of Trump support. I think he would poll very highly, those who do know him. So that will put pressure on the Senate. The critics will be Democrats and maybe some establishment Republicans. It might be difficult for the establishment, the Susan Collins or whoever who is there, Murkowski. It might be difficult for them to oppose this one because a lot of them are up for re-election. What a change. Remember former NIH director Dr. Francis Collins? Wow. We saw in later leaks, emails, he and Fauci were working against them because they knew they were right, in my opinion, and they didn't want their information out there. Bhattacharya has proposed changes, so when he's getting confirmed, these questions will come up. His vision for transforming the NIH is by increasing funding for innovative research while reducing the influence of long-serving officials. Those are the corrupt ones. His proposals resonate with the Trump agenda to overhaul federal health agencies, and that will get some more support among the base. There are some challenges because of the Democrats, for sure. Anybody who is pro-vaccine, anyone who is bought out by big pharma is going to be instructed to put up some type of block here. But I think overall, my opinion is, and I don't make predictions, but my opinion is I don't see how he's not confirmed. We'll see what comes out. But he doesn't have a lot of these big kind of controversial positions or, family issues or anything like that. He doesn't have a lot of that. Let's talk about the Indians. We've got the and I'm not talking about Pocahontas. I'm talking about the ones who are from or have ancestry from India. 3 men. Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai holds 4 degrees from MIT, PhD in biological engineering. Not that they're decorated. Not that means anything, but these are smart guys. Getting these degrees, it's not easy. Vivek Ramaswamy graduated from Harvard with a degree in biology and later earned a law degree from Yale. That's impressive. Dr. J. Bhattacharya received both his MD and PhD in economics, not just medicine, from Stanford University. All 3 of them have roots in India. Ayyadurai was born in Bombay, now Mumbai, India, and grew up in Tamil Nadu before moving to the U.S. at age 7. That's the homie, if you don't know. That's who I voted for president in 2024, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Vivek Ramaswamy, who just put the stage ablaze, the greatest, one of the greatest, might be the greatest debate performance I've ever seen in my life. Vivek Ramaswamy was born in Cincinnati to Indian immigrant parents from Kerala. Bhattacharya was born in Kolkata, India, before moving to the United States. All 3 of them have used their technical expertise. All 3 of them believe in first principle thinking. All 3 of them have risen up and are doing a lot of good things, in my opinion. So if you don't like that, there's some people who would not want that, maybe because you don't trust them or not. Well, we're going to need to see other people step up then. If you're a black and you want a black, then where are the blacks to step up and do something? If you're a white and you want a white, where are the whites to step up? Those three have. I just found it interesting that they're all Indian ancestry. There's a thing going on online with the Indians, man. Like it's almost like after the JQ, the Indians are the next ones to kind of wonder about in a different reason, in a different way. 2020 says in caps, let me see what's that, 18 minutes behind, but stop lying. When we saw COVID in China, they were not dropping dead. They were doing the Wuhan wiggle dance to death. He said they weren't dropping dead. They were doing the Wuhan wiggle. That's what I will call it going forward. Oh, man. And no, my name 2020 ain't about a year. I had it before. It's about seeing clearly. Okay, I like that. Good to clear that up. Asal Smith says 85% chance to be confirmed. I would put it exactly at 85%. I would just go with your percentage there. I agree completely. I'm going to end with just shout out to Donald Trump. I have to unpack and see how this happened, and then I'm going to go to some off topics here in a second. But I don't know how this happened. Maybe he is listening to people. It feels like this was a listening pick. He made the pick with Janet Niswet, and it's hard to explain how you would go from her to him. But however it came, this is good for Donald Trump, and this is energizing. I'll say this is energizing. Donald Trump, this is probably the first thing since he's won that he's done this energized me this much because of how big COVID was. I do like what he said about tariffs. Donald Trump recently said he's going to do. He's warning Canada, Mexico already and China about tariffs if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Love it. Love it. I don't know where libertarians are at. They act like tariffs are taxes or a tax because libertarians are against taxation. And what it is libertarians really, it's not that you're against taxation, really, to me. It's the forcefulness of it. So is that in the definition of a tax? If you don't have to pay it, is it a tax? I don't know. But that's what it comes down to, is the demand that you have to do it. If you opt out, there's consequences. So if we have a bunch of houses in the area and we say, hey, everybody chip in on trash. I mean, that's kind of what happens with HOAs, but let's not do an HOA. Just to say hypothetically, there's open land. We're going to move there. 20 of us, we're going to move there, and we go in on it for trash. And you say, nah, I'm good. I don't want to pay that trash tax. Okay, we'd be like, bro, it's not a tax. You don't have to pay it, but we're not picking, obviously the trash, they're not going to pick up your trash. You have to figure out a different way. When you do a tariff is not a tax because the products that there's a tariff on, you don't have to purchase. Now, I understand that could be steel that's in a lot of other things. But I'm sorry, that's still not a tax. That's different than a tax. A tariff is not a tax. And it's not even, I understand that it has ramifications on citizens by raising the price of goods, that it could raise the price of goods. We would expect that it would raise the price of goods, but it's not inflation for sure, not by my definition. It would increase pricing, but that's not inflation. That's not printing money and devaluing the dollar, causing things to be more expensive. What that is it's a price for not having enough domestic manufacturing. That's what it is. If you manufacture all the steel in America, who cares what the tariff is? And that's where it comes down to. That is an America First policy. That is a great policy. Yes, it will be a costly policy, especially up front before companies start building up their infrastructure here. But if you don't do that, it's not going to happen. The companies are not going to build their infrastructure in America when there's no market and they don't know what's going to happen. Even with the tariffs, I understand it could be a risk, because if Donald Trump doesn't win, or if J.D. Vance, I don't think Trump's running again. Trump can't run again, right? He already had one term, but I don't know. We say J.D. Vance doesn't win in 2028, and you get AOC. AOC's not doing the tariffs. She's a globalist. She's an open border. She's like, no tariffs. It's get wrecked. I'm for the workers, but I'm not really for the workers. So a company might look at that and say, I don't know if I want to build out until we know that J.D. Vance wins in 2028. Then we're good. At least you've got 8 years potentially with, usually that you would get 2 terms. But that's the take on the very basic economic take on the tariffs. Tariffs are not a bad thing. They're not a tax. You don't have to agree with them, but don't call them a tax. I don't understand that. That doesn't resonate with me. And I think there's very smart libertarians that are against tariffs, and I don't understand that. If you're a nationalist libertarian, and that's what I think the Mises Caucus would be, I don't know why you would be against a tariff. If you don't know, we're talking about Trump's recent threat of Mexican, Chinese, and what's he looking for? No fentanyl, the classic no fentanyl, no immigrants. I don't know what he wants from Canada. I forgot what he wanted from Canada, but let me read a little bit of that to give the context that Donald Trump plans to impose a 25% tariff on all products imported from Mexico and Canada. You all realize that is not a 25% tax on products manufactured domestically. So that evens out the market. And I know a lot of people might not like it. It depends on how he does it with ag. Ag might not like that, and you would think ag would be very hard, backing Trump. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that is going to work, but that could be a concern for them. But the market will have to adjust. The market will not adjust before the tariffs. So he's going to impose that starting first day in office, January 20th. He stated that these tariffs would remain in effect until both countries take substantial actions to stop the flow of illegal drugs and migrants across the border. I didn't know migrants were coming from Canada. Of course, illegal drugs would, but I was thinking more Mexico via China as well. 10% on China. Additionally, Trump intends to levy a 10% tariff on Chinese goods, citing the need for China to take more responsibility in preventing the smuggling of fentanyl, obviously the potent opioid that has contributed to a significant number of overdose deaths in the U.S. Trump expressed that both Mexico and Canada have the capability to resolve these issues, and that it's time for them to pay a very big price if they fail to do so. He described the situation as an invasion of illegal immigrants and drugs. If you voted for Donald Trump, this is what you wanted to vote for. I don't know who voted for Donald Trump and is taken aback by tariffs. Libertarians, tell me where I'm not any type of, I don't call myself a libertarian. I know I do have that libertarian sweater. It's really more that I like the Mises Caucus and I like where the Libertarian Party is going. Yes, even now I do like where it's going. But I would say, help me understand what your argument is against tariff. I don't understand the position from the smart libertarians. And I always leave room to be wrong, especially when a bunch of smart people are pushing back. Then I want to leave room to be able to adjust. Ray says tariffs don't actually raise prices. That's a rough one. You could be right. My economic knowledge and background says that it will, very likely. New vehicle prices won't be even or even more expensive because of inflation, but because of tariffs. Well, I think what you want to do is create an environment where you bring the jobs to America. That's the argument there with the tariffs. So good. I'm going to go to just a couple topics that we saw come through Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had a weird, I don't know what happened with Kamala Harris's message here. She had a post-election message, and let's cover that. I'll just play the video here just to show you. This is, I don't know what she was doing here. She's doing more of the same stuff that failed. I want the full thing. ALX. Why am I not getting the full video? It was actually longer than I expected to. Let's look at ALX had. I know he had it. I'm a big supporter of ALX. Shout out to him. This is a clip. Why are the Democrats? Kamala Harris threatens to run again in 2028. Wow. So let's take a look here. This is, I know I saw him post the full thing here. He said, anybody got any joy? This is Kamala Harris, and she's not looking too happy. Not a lot of joy here.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Back at you, brother. You are such an extraordinary leader, and we have become lifelong friends. I just, in front of everyone, I want to thank you, Tim. You lead with courage. You lead with heart. You see the people. You care about the people. You believe in uplifting the dignity to which all people are entitled, and you do it and you have a sense of fun when you're doing it. But you are an extraordinary leader, and obviously the people of Minnesota are very, very lucky to have you there. But you are a national leader and a dear friend, and thank you. Noel, thank you for your work in Pennsylvania and all that you did for our campaign. And let me just say to everyone on this call, I am so grateful for you, and I'm so thankful to you. I'm thankful for your love of our country and your willingness to put the work into it. I'm thankful for the faith that you put in me and Governor Walz.
That line is getting really annoying. The work that you put in.
Our country and your willingness to put the work into it.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the way they say it, because she didn't say, what do they say, doing the work or something like that? It's kind of annoying.
I'm thankful for the faith that you put in me and Governor Walz and our team. And I am thankful because I know your character is such that you're not going to get knocked down. And you're in this fight. And you're in it for all the right reasons. And I know that about you. It's why you're part of this call right now and all the work that you did over those 107 days and even before. That's your nature. And the outcome of this election obviously is not what we wanted. It is not what we worked so hard for.
Do you think there's something to her drinking wine and kind of being drunk? I don't know. There's something off about her. Like, she doesn't seem like she's sleepy tired, but she just seems like she's not clicking. Like, it's not snapping. There's no plan. It's not crisp. There's something off. It's not like you listen to Carrie Lake and you know she's got a plan. She knows what she's going to do. I know she's polished because she used to be a news anchor, but there's something like, it's just like I don't know if you watch the Great British Bake Off. It's like that one raspberry in the cake is just not there, and it bothers you. It bothers you. It's not there on purpose. There's something off. It's like, oh, it's almost like you brought a carton of Kamala Harris is like you brought a carton of a dozen eggs home and there's one missing. There's something off. And you're like, this feels like it feels like I should have checked first. Maybe you bring the eggs home and there's two of them broken and you're like, I didn't check it. Something's off. Why didn't I do that? What's off here? It's hard to put your finger on it. Is she just older? I don't know.
And the outcome of this election obviously is not what we wanted. It is not what we worked so hard for. But I am proud of the race we ran. And your role in this was critical. What we did in 107 days was unprecedented. Think about the coalition that we built, and we were so intentional about that. You would hear me talk about it all the time. Being a daughter of parents who are active in the civil rights movement, I know and believe that the best movements that are about progress in our country mean that.
So that's how she tries to slide in the black stuff, is with the civil rights movement. The only thing that she's done that's historic that I'm aware of is blow through $1 billion in 100 days. Do you know how hard it is to spend $1 billion over $1 billion in 100 days? Do you know how bad you have to be with money to burn that and not get what you were trying to buy? That doesn't even count the dark money that was spent on her behalf. $1 billion. That's part of this blowout. The votes kept counting. Are they still counting votes? I don't know. The votes kept counting and counting and counting, and they said, well, Donald Trump's under 50% of the popular vote now. Well, he swept all the swing states. That's a blowout to me. To my knowledge, he still swept all the swing states. That's a blowout. That's not a normal. He won the popular vote, swept all the swing states, has all the momentum. You outspent him a ton. So that means his ideas were that much better to resonate to the normal person than yours. That's a blowout to me.
It's leaders that we are dedicated to the coalition, to bringing people together that seemingly have nothing in common, but have everything in common. A coalition where we bring people together based on a deep love of our country. That's
MAGA. That's what MAGA has become. The wider tent of MAGA. That's not you anymore. There's no wide coalition. There is no wide coalition. MAGA is has, to me, more diverse, more a wider tent than you guys now. That I see MAGA having a coalition. Now, I'm not changing my take. I've got problems with MAGA, but that's not the point of this discussion. From what she's saying here, it doesn't even line up.
And our understanding that the strength of our country will be a function of our willingness to put in the work.
Here we go again.
And that we will
put in the work. That's 2 times in 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Do that work.
That's 3. What is going on? Is she not on script?
Of our country will be a function of our willingness to put in the work. And that we will do that work with.
That is so, I'm so tired of hearing these leftists talk about doing the work. I don't know why because I like the idea of Scott Presler. If you want to say who's doing the work, Scott Presler does the work. The term is so, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me, and this 3 times in under 3 minutes. I don't think she's on the teleprompter here.
With a sense of joy, yes.
She's a hot mess. What is going on? This is our current vice president. She's a hot mess right now.
With a sense of work ethic and understanding it's going to be hard, but it's good work. It's good work.
Oh my. She's still talking about the work.
To be engaged in a collective fight for America's future. And it means so much.
What does that mean? It's just so vacuous.
And to Governor Walz, that you knocked on doors, you called friends, You called in favors. You said, hey, I showed up at your softball game. Now I need you to show up at the campaign office. You put in the time. It was personal for you.
Is this a skit? A skit? Is this a sketch? It's like Saturday Night Live. It's basically just like, what's her name? Minnie Riperton's daughter.
Campaign office. You put in the time. It was personal for you. And you gave all that you could to support our campaign. Because of your efforts, get this, we raised an historic $1.4 billion, almost $1.5 billion from
What?
grassroots supporters alone. The most in presidential campaign history.
This bitch ran through our $1.5 billion and is still in debt. And this is the person that's going to be kind of leading. We know Congress has the purse, but this is the person that would lead kind of the coalition to go to D.C. with a mandate to do what? Ruin the American dollar? $1.5 billion in 100 days. Poof, gone. Like it's nothing. Got nothing from it. 100,000 here, 100,000 here. Pay Al Sharpton before you do an interview for him. MSNBC, what a joke. What is going on with you, Comcast? I know they're spinning it off. That's embarrassing. Al Sharpton gets, for his foundation, money from their campaign, and then he sits down and does an interview with her, and you pass it as news. Oprah Winfrey said, I didn't get paid. She probably isn't. They probably paid Harpo Productions or whatever else, allegedly. You pay the company. Just like somebody gives me a donation to the Middle MAGA Incorporated. They didn't pay me. They paid Middle MAGA Incorporated. That bull. Beyonce said she didn't get paid. To hell she didn't get paid. There's no way Beyonce, allegedly, there's no way Beyonce is endorsing this heifer right here. Not getting endorsed by Beyonce unless there's some cash involved. Beyonce needed a new Cybertruck or something. She probably said, I need at least, the Founder Series is about $200K. I'm going to need you to pay my company about $200K at least. The wrap costs about $10K. We're going to do some little bit after. We might get the battery extension later. Make that $300K, okay? But I heard it was million. I don't know what it was. But you see how it is. They built out the hotel room for the Call Me Daddy podcast. Literal filth of a podcast. They built out. Why do you need to build out a set? If you're going to do a podcast, make it rustic. Do it like John Fetterman in the basement with white brick in the background. That would have been more hardcore. Take the suit off. Dress normal. You know what? She could have even done that. She could have even sat down with John Fetterman in that white brick, wherever that is, that white brick setting where he looks like he's in some dungeon somewhere with his hoodie on, and they would have done a podcast together. That would have been better than the Call Me Daddy, because the optics would have triggered the right people. I mean, the Call Me Daddy triggered a little bit, but so you spend $100,000, 6 figures. I don't know exactly how much. 6 figures to build out a hotel room or a room to do the podcast set and get what a fraction of the 47 at one point, probably way more million views that Trump got just on Joe Rogan. James Carville crashed out when he was like, why didn't you do Rogan? He doesn't like Rogan. It was free. It doesn't matter if you would have tanked the interview. You spin it. Here's James Carville crashing out for she's bragging about the 1.5 billion. Here's James Carville like, what?
The vice president was thinking about going on Joe Rogan's show, and a lot of the younger progressive staffers pitched a hissy fit. Supposedly the campaign said that wasn't the term de facto, but they did. When you put a campaign together and you hire young people to do work, let me tell you exactly what you tell these people, what I would tell them. Not only am I not interested in your fucking opinion, I'm not even going to call you by your name. You're 23 years old. I don't really give a shit what you think. And let me tell you another huge error, huge fucking error this made, is when people said campaigns need to reflect progressive values. No, they don't. No, they don't. Campaigns are authoritarian by their nature. And if I were running a 2028 campaign and I had some little snot-nosed 23-year-old saying, I'm going to resign if you don't do this, not only would I fire that motherfucker on the spot, I would find out who hired them and fire that person on the spot. I'm really not interested in your uninformed, stupid, jackass opinion as to whether you go on Joe Rogan or not.
Let's go. This nigga crashed out. This nigga crashed and burned, boy. The Dixie crack came out, man. When hard times come, you see the true person. James Carville came out. He was this close to dropping the hard ER. I guarantee you that. He was this close. I don't know where that came from, but it seemed to me like he was really close to be like, these I think he was really close. He didn't want to say these mother effers. He wanted to be these blacks and browns. And he would have passed out on no matter what race, white or white also. But this is where it turned. Like right in the middle here is when he turned. Like, I'm not here to kind of sugarcoat this.
By your name.
I'm not gonna call you by your name. You don't care about no Me Too, no nothing. All that stuff is all a joke now, all in the background now. Ish is real. He's talking to you, progressive, the progressive left too. He had that conviction in his voice. When we say it with your chest, this is what it sounds like.
You hire young people to do work. Let me tell you exactly what you tell these people, what I would tell them.
You went with these people too.
These people, what I would tell them. Not only am I not interested in your fucking opinion, I'm not even going to call you by your name. You're 23 years old.
I'm not even going to call you by your name. No.
You're 23 years old. I don't really give a shit what you think. And let me tell you another huge error, huge fucking error this made, is when people said campaigns need to reflect progressive values. No, they don't. No, they don't. Campaigns are authoritarian by their nature. And if I were running a 2028 campaign and I had some little snot-nosed 23-year-old saying, I'm going to resign if you don't do this, not only would I fire that motherfucker on the spot, I would find out who hired them and fire that person
motherfucker
on the
too.
spot. I'm really not interested in your uninformed, stupid, jackass opinion as to whether you go on Joe Rogan or not.
Man, I'm just here, man. If you have a clip of somebody crashing out, man, that just makes my day, man. I don't know why. I love that clip. I absolutely love that clip. That energy, that's the energy right there, man. That's the energy from somebody who wants to win. I don't even care to argue we know he's right about Joe Rogan. It would have cost nothing. If you would have gave Joe Rogan the $1.5 billion, it would have been better spent. Wow. They're falling apart. The left, if you want to call them the left, they're truly crashing and burning right now. They're hitting the brick wall. Let me go take a look and see. There's a couple other things I wanted to get into. If I'm feeling all right, so I can get into a couple other things. Let me get into real quick the whole libertarian battle. This thing got heated. This thing got big. Comic Dave Smith, the homie. I haven't probably talked about Comic Dave Smith that much recently. Nothing has changed from Comic Dave Smith. I support him as much as I did during the 2020 era. That's who I would vote for president if he were running. That's the one who should lead the Libertarian Party. That's the one who can articulate the ideals of liberty better than anyone. That resonates with me. Comic Dave Smith. And he has his personal things. I'm never gonna diss him for not wanting to run. I'm just saying hypothetically, that's who the guy is. That's who I would want to go. Constantly based. Nobody's gonna be perfect. I know there's some questions there on the JQ. He's not some Zionist Jew though, so that's not going to be a deal breaker. But there's a lot of heat, and a lot of this heat is coming from the decision not to. If you don't know what's going on here, let me just give a little bit of background. The Libertarian Party nominated basically someone who's very similar politically, in my opinion, to Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He's a little bit more liberty oriented, but pride flag, pride parade, bad on COVID, open borders, very similar overall to Mayor Pete. And that's not liberty oriented, even if he might agree on end the Fed or something like that. That's not enough. That doesn't rally anybody. So before we even get into this clip, and I'm going to play a clip of, I think I uploaded, I hope it's there, of the Twitter spaces that they were in. It was a great Twitter space. It was, they had family matters to discuss. Before I do that it doesn't matter what Chase Oliver's policies are. This guy who won the nomination for the Libertarian Party. Put that to any political party. It does not matter necessarily. That's not the number one thing. If you're going to be leading the party as a presidential candidate, you have to be able to rally people. If you can't rally people, then it doesn't matter what your policies are. That's the problem I had with Dr. Michael Rectenwald. I talked about Dr. Michael Rectenwald. He sounds like a fine man. There's no beef there. I don't want to diss him. He put his neck out there to run for president when Comic Dave Smith couldn't. He had issues, but he didn't. And I want to give him credit for that. But at the same time, if you can't rally people, then there's no point to it. I mean, you're doing the wrong thing. So if I can't play basketball, how am I going to try to get to the NBA? Happened to Ron DeSantis. It happened to Ron DeSantis as well. If you can't rally people, if you can't be the obvious choice when you're running for president, then I don't know what I need you for. You can't rally anybody, so I don't need you. This is just to show you that I'm not, this isn't even about Chase Oliver's policies. The same thing I'm saying about Chase Oliver not being able to rally the Libertarian Party is the same thing I would say about Dr. Michael Rectenwald.
Would you be for ending birthright citizenship?
Citizenship is not the issue. The question is whether they're allowed to come here or not, and that would be on an invitation
But people
basis.
use birthright citizenship as a way to legitimize their path towards immigration, especially if they've entered illegally.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough one because I am for liberty, but I don't want people infringing on property that they don't own, and I think public property is really the property of taxpayers, whereas the state takes custodianship over it. I don't think that's right.
Middle MAGA.
Would you be for ending birthright citizenship?
So I played that clip to show that that's not a guy that's going to rally anybody. It's a guy that's not prepared. Very easy, not easy, but predictable question, fair question. Nobody's going to be perfect at all times, but he was too much of that. Chase Oliver couldn't rally anybody. Neither one of them could be candidates. So what happened is, the backdrop of this story is that the Libertarian Party, many of them, the ones that I respect, Clint Russell and others, Dave Smith, Josie the redheaded Libertarian, name them, they decided that it was better to vote for Trump. Trump came to the Libertarian Party and Trump said, vote, nominate me. That wasn't legal. They couldn't do that, but they could back him. Back me, and I'll do a couple things. I'll nominate someone for my cabinet and for my my advisory position. I'll nominate, he said both, a libertarian. That didn't happen. So now the left-leaning libertarians, or the libertarians that didn't like Comic Dave Smith and them, are amped up saying, look, you voted for a non-libertarian and Trump didn't live up to his promises. There's one more promise, that was to commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, and that could happen day one. Charlie Kirk said in response to Ross Ulbricht being commuted, Donald Trump lives up to his promises. So if that happens, then those left-leaning libertarians, if they want to, carry themselves with integrity, would have to give credit to the Mises Caucus libertarians. But I have the Twitter space. I hope it uploaded. Okay, yeah. So I have the Twitter space uploaded here. This is Descript. They're not paying me any money, so I shouldn't be saying that. But this is an app that I upload my videos and I upload a lot of stuff and do voice to text. Then you can export that, and then you can put it in ChatGPT or wherever, and you can do a lot with it. You can ask questions even if you didn't watch the video, and that's how I organized the Graper. Like, what was the Graper word too? I listened to Nick's live, uploaded to Descript, and then exported it, and then outlined it. But let's take a look. They get to it pretty quick. Let's see here. And you can remove the ums and all that kind of stuff too. But let's start this off. This is going to be Comic Dave Smith.
Start with this, and then I see, Jacob, if you want to bring, let's bring Angela, and I see Chase is here. Bring Chase up, bring Angela up. And then we could start with that. But I'll just say like a couple things before we get started. So basically, the reason why I was thinking of doing this was, so yesterday I was on Twitter here, and I started I guess I got into it with a few libertarians who were being critical of the libertarians who supported Donald Trump this year. Obviously, he rounded out his cabinet, and so people were making a big thing about the libertarian and his cabinet talk that he gave when he came to the convention. And so anyway, so I was arguing with a few different people, and I was coming across what I think were a lot of really bad arguments. And so I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe we should do a thing. Maybe a Twitter Spaces would be a good format where we could all kind of like, people can give their thoughts and we can hash it out a little bit. So I thought maybe that would be worthwhile. I will say this, I'll try to be brief, and then we can start up. I will just say that I do understand where the strategy that Angela kind of embarked on here in the Libertarian.
Angela that he's referenced there is Angela McArdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party, that is basically running this stuff, handling a lot of the finances. She's leading the push to kind of work with RFKJ, bringing Vivek in. She was behind that, all that stuff, bringing in Trump to speak at the Libertarian National Convention.
Party, and a lot of us libertarians, I know for myself and probably for a lot of other people who were supporting Donald Trump, this was very much a different strategy for all of us. Most of us have not voted for major party candidates recently, and and obviously the strategy with the LP is something different than it's ever done before. I would just kind of implore a lot of libertarians to think about the fact that the world has changed. Truly drastically, the world has changed over the last few years. There's a lot of things you could point to of what really changed the world. I particularly think COVID. That's the thing I would really point to, but we could debate that. But the world has changed, and in a situation like that, I think you should at least be open to new strategies rather than kind of having this what seems to me is almost a quasi-religious allergy to even suggesting that maybe just sitting in our corner and preaching our message is not the best use of this party.
What's happening here is, I think, just me from afar, these guys are way smarter than me, so I always leave room to be wrong. But I don't even like the label libertarian. I don't understand what do you get out of it? So Comic Dave Smith, I would say, self-described libertarian. Why? I think he should drop the label because it forces you into this purity test that now they're defending themselves when Comic Dave Smith never said Donald Trump was a libertarian. He's doing it to influence power. And for some reason, there's a lot of libertarians that associate with trying to acquire power, believe it or not, with authoritarianism. You can't have liberty without acquiring power to be free. I mean, otherwise you're enslaved. You look at slavery all throughout the world. You can't be liberated if you don't have power. In some aspects, libertarians should be the experts on power dynamics, and they are the dunces of the political discussion. They are the dumbest as a group, not Comic Dave Smith, not Michael Heiss and them, not Angela McArdle, not Robbie the Fire Bernstein, not Eric July. The ones that are against them, they are the dumbest people. I mean, they're even dumber than the blacks, even dumber than anyone. Even look at MAGA. I've criticized MAGA a lot, but MAGA understood power. MAGA basically, bent over the counter and let Israel violate them with a dreidel because they wanted Trump to have power. That's more based, believe it or not, than these left libertarians who say it's more important to support Chase Oliver than to get a seat at the table, whether he's lying or not, with Donald Trump. So I don't even care for the title. I'm talking about the little L, not even the L. The big L libertarian is the party. So that's not even that's not even a belief. It's just the vehicle. You could be in MAGA and be a real libertarian, a little L libertarian. I'm saying he should drop the label and say, I'm not a libertarian anymore. I'm not a little L libertarian. I haven't changed any of my positions. I just don't want that title to get in the way of our discussions anymore. So if you want to hold me to this purity test, that's done. I'm not a libertarian anymore. I've left the party. Not the party, but I've left the label. The label is the problem. I say I'm a libertarian, then I say, well, I support Nick Fuentes. I support Donald Trump. Well, how's that possible? What do you mean, how's that possible? Because they understand power more than you, because their movement's better than yours. What do you mean? Why would I say, well, you don't have a movement. You're supporting a gay pride parade, dude. Like, well, you're behind. I'm not, I don't care what you label yourself. I'm not with you. That's the debate that's happening here.
Especially if we're doing that in a way that isn't really moving the needle, and we have other options in front of us that potentially could really move the needle. So I'll leave it at that, and then if you want to say anything, Jacob, and then we can go to Angela and Chase.
So this is a big moment before Chase comes up here, because I can't remember the last time Chase and Dave talked publicly. And they're on the opposite sides. They are the two figures that represent the opposite sides, probably the clearest right now in the Libertarian Party. Chase has not been, they've offered to have him on podcasts and stuff. It's kind of very similar to the Democrats. I mean, he's a Democrat. Similar to the Democrats, he can't survive in an uncontrolled environment. If who I don't know who I would have beef with. Nicole Hannah Jones. I'd go on her podcast. I would have no problem with that. I would have to be able to record my own recording so you don't set me up or anything. James Lindsay and I have, I've kind of fallen off, completely fallen off. He's blocked me on Twitter. I've, chatted with him before. I've called him the general in the culture war, and now we're blocked. My point of saying that is I would go talk to him. I would talk to an Antifa. I'd love to talk to Antifa. I've chatted with them. There's really no one I wouldn't talk with, because if I'm ignorant on something, I'll tell you, I don't know. I've talked with, Iggy, and a lot of people are really knowledgeable in World War II. And I'm like, I got a very tertiary, very basic understanding of a lot of it, timeline wise and all that. Talked with I've talked with socialists before. I've been on with Crick Pasta. Chase Oliver doesn't talk to other people very often. So this is very unique. And he's well-spoken, very smart dude. It's weird that he doesn't feel like he needs to do that, but you have to. And you gain some respect by doing that. He thinks he has the upper hand right now because Donald Trump did not nominate a libertarian in the cabinet. So the libertarians who booed Donald Trump feel vindicated, and they're going after Dave Smith, who voted for Donald Trump. But you still have to wait for January 20th to see if Trump does commute that sentence.
Yeah, I won't tie up too much time. I think this was a good idea. I think that I made a post earlier today where I just kind of in anticipation of this, kind of said some of the same things you. So let's give Chase the first word here. You made a post inviting him. I think it's big on him to
Sure.
speak. So Chase.
Yeah, and I should say the same. I appreciate you being here, Chase.
Hey, thanks for having me. So first, the question of your space, I don't think I can answer that. That's a you question. The
question of the space is, did you, and he's going to say it here, did you sell out your principles? Is Comic Dave Smith is saying, did I sell out my principles by supporting Trump? It's kind of a clickbait. He knows the answer to that, and obviously not, but it's just clickbait.
You sell out your principles. That's a thing you have to answer. And I'm not here to answer that question or to push one.
That's corny though, Chase. That's a corny start, because it shows me, and that's why these people don't go on other shows. Comic Dave Smith, that's clickbait. It's not a real question. He labeled the Twitter space, did I sell out my principles, to get people to come into the space. He's never thought he sold out. He's never questioning that. But Chase comes in as if that's like a real thing.
Way or the other. I am here to say that I think the strategy that Angela has presented and what we've gotten out of a Trump victory is not playing out the way we had anticipated. Many people thought we're going to get somebody in the Department of Education to tear it apart, somebody like Corey DeAngelis.
That was all hopes. Trump never said that. He said you would get a cabinet. So, but Trump's not even president yet. This is premature.
Or we're going to get Thomas Massey at Agriculture, or we're going to get somebody at Treasury. And what we've really gotten is Marco Rubio at Secretary of State.
Yeah.
We have for all the grief I got over COVID stuff for running, we now have a Surgeon General who said the COVID vaccine is a gift from God.
Yeah, that was cringe. That's a fair take. But Chase, your take during the pandemic was terrible too. But now you criticized Dave Smith for supporting Trump, and now we have a Surgeon General who said the COVID vaccine is a gift from God. But then now we have Jay Bhattacharya, the whole topic of the live. So you have to now that didn't happen at the point. This was from, I don't know, yesterday or 2 days ago.
We have folks being put in place who are going to be in charge of Medicare and Medicaid that have went on their television show getting the COVID vaccine and touting boosters. And we have our president-elect of the United States who just put out a truth on Truth Social saying that he's looking forward to the 5th anniversary of COVID to celebrate how great of a job he did in Operation Warp Speed and how great his government did in the face of the China virus, right?
This is just it's just odd, because Comic Dave Smith is one of the best on the COVID regime in the pandemic. So I don't, not resonating with me, Chase.
And so I feel like a lot of the promises that were made to Angela, I assume, and others, are not being kept. This is something that should be indicative of the two-party system. It's not new when a duopoly candidate makes a promise and then completely walks back on that. And in fact, hey, I imagine many people came to the Libertarian Party because the duopoly candidate did just that. I imagine there are people who, in 1988, when they heard "read my lips, no new taxes," they voted for George H.W. Bush instead of Ron Paul, right? And then guess what? Taxes went up, right? New taxes appeared. I imagine there were people who heard when George W. Bush said we're going to have a kinder, gentler foreign policy in 2000, that we're going to be compassionate conservatives and we're going to cut government. I imagine there were people who voted for him over Harry Brown. He didn't do that. 9/11 happened, and then we got the war on terror. We even had, John Hospers, our first presidential candidate, supporting George W. Bush in 2004, right? So it's not new for libertarians within the party, within the movement, to at one time or another say, hey, I think I'm going to trust this candidate to cut government. I don't fault people for doing it. What I hope we can do is recognize that it's a failure of a strategy, because ultimately what's going to happen is what we're seeing right now is the same establishment people are putting themselves into the Trump White House, into the Trump transition team. And we're not seeing a libertarian in the cabinet. RFK does not count. There are things that I agree with RFK on.
I agree. He does not count. And I don't like I haven't heard it, but I heard Angela was trying to patch I think people might have been misconstruing that, because what I heard Angela say was we have an ally to the party in the White. I never heard her say he's a libertarian. But yeah, you do have an ally there. And Angela McArdle was at the table with Donald Trump right before the election. That's very good stuff, and Chase doesn't acknowledge that. So you get the vibe of it. I'm kind of done with that. I think my big takeaway from that is I just really want to encourage the Mises Caucus to keep doing their things. I support them, and just to always be on the offense. I don't like, why do you do a Twitter space to talk to people who you need to explain why you would support Donald Trump over Chase Oliver when put in that position? If I have to explain that to you, why I made that decision, I don't agree with that decision. I didn't make that decision, obviously, but they don't need to explain to me why they made that decision. And I don't even criticize them for, I haven't criticized anybody who said, well, I'm looking at the two choices, Kamala and Trump, so I'm going Trump. It wasn't for me, but I'm not criticize. I'll criticize people for not calling out the genocide, but for voting Trump, no, I'm not criticizing you. But I want to see Mises Caucus go offense, and you got to root out these leftist libertarians, and they would know how to do that better than me. They de-wokeified the party, but to a certain extent. But you gotta take over the political apparatus. Has to be taken over, and there's a lot that I like on there. There's a lot of leftist libertarians that I like and respect, but they're gonna have to get moved the hell up out of there, because they don't understand power, and they just need to get out the way. Oh, what's up? Appreciate you, man. You don't know how much that motivates a bro just staying up talking to the ether with the Occupy Mars sweater on for Mortis Noctu to say always a great show every time I happen to tune in. Appreciate you as always. Thank you. Richard says a leftist could never believe in libertarianism because they believe in more government is better. I think technically you can have a leftist libertarian, like Vosh is a leftist libertarian, but I completely understand what you're saying, Richard. I think technically you could see somebody who says, I believe in decentralization, and in the area that I live, I do want a strong government. I think that is I do believe that's like say, so here's the thing. What does liberty mean? I think it's just more, it's a direction. It's like, if you believe in decentralization, if you believe in peace, say you don't believe say you believe in government power, but you believe in peace, you're taking somewhat of a directional path toward liberty in a way. Peace, private property rights. No one's going to be perfect on all of those. But I agree with you, Richard, but I think a leftist can be libertarian because I mean, there's leftist libertarian, they're identitarian, but I still call them leftist libertarians, but I know what you mean. It's it's bat. Is it a bot? Go Trump. Yeah. Jordan Lott. Yeah, I'm actually talking about libertarians. What's up, bro? Because normally Jordan Lott comes in, we talk about liberty a little bit, but the topic isn't on liberty. But I did talk about it tonight. Jordan Lott says, "Heck yeah, libertarian night tonight. Dave's freaking Smith 2028. Let's freaking go." That was a cool Twitter space. Yeah, that was a cool Twitter space. It was a lot that went on in there. A lot of emotions that came out in there. It was a good family discussion. I just don't know if it's worth it trying to talk to the leftist libertarians. Maybe you're talking to them, trying to convince the ones in the middle. So, but they know better than I. I'm just giving you my opinion from afar. I just don't know what it does. I don't know. Well, yeah, let me take a look and see. I'll be probably out here in a second. Just want to see real quick if there's anything top of mind to cover that I did not cover. Wonder if I could. No, I'm not going to cover. I was going to talk about Redman. Redman's been dropping some joints here, coming out with Muddy Waters 2, I believe. It's a hard left turn, but talking about hip hop. No, I'm good. I had the Elon Musk thing on here, but I don't really feel like it. Nancy Mace, don't feel like it. Sebastian Gorka, don't feel like it. CNN, I do feel like this one real quick. I do disagree with the Groypers on. I understand their position on it. Scott Presler is obviously gay, but he does not. And obviously the topic is Scott Presler right now. And I'm a big supporter. I've always been a big supporter of Scott Presler. I don't think he's, he's a Zionist, whatever. I don't know what to do with that topic at times. But, I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do a quick Groyper appreciation. Just because I talk about how when I have interaction with Groypers, and I think this person was a Groyper, I tell you, like, I don't think I've had a bad experience chatting with a Groyper, honestly. And I want to just give an example of that. So I'll end with that. That's a good note, I think. But let me talk about Scott Presler, where I kind of disagree with the Groypers, a small disagreement with Nick. He's not a fan of Scott. I mean, he's a gay Zionist Jew. It's probably not the demographic for the homie Nick Fuentes, but I've always liked Scott, man, because he doesn't like, kind of big up himself, even though everybody else bigs him up for the work he puts in, and his groundwork. I'm sounding like Kamala Harris, but he is on the ground, boots on the ground. Now I sound like Mayor Pete Buttigieg using these corporate lines, but he's there with the people and he's doing real things. And he doesn't come into your face, say, "Hey, I'm a gay Republican," every 2 seconds. He doesn't, or at all. I've never heard him say that. I've never heard him do that. I've seen him being self-deprecating. I've never heard him say, "I'm a gay and I do this." I don't care that you're gay. It's obvious he's gay. I don't need that. And he doesn't do that. And he could say, "Hey, I've done this and I should be in this position and that position." No, he's been a humble person. CNN tried to do a hit piece on him and made him look like a star, a rock star.
Tonight, quote, "The Amish delivered." Those are the words of a man few people know, but a man who was key to Donald Trump's win in Pennsylvania. The controversial conservative activist, Scott Presler.
Okay, first, whoa. Controversial for what? What has this dude ever done that's controversial? I don't even know from their standpoint. From my standpoint, supporting Israel is controversial, but it could be controversial. But from their standpoint, there's nothing. They haven't said anything. They use this word in here. They put it in the Chiron 2, controversial. Why? Because he supports Trump?
The group gave.
He's tall. Is he that much taller than Trump? Trump is like 6'3". Man, that bro's like, he's got to be like, he's almost like, he's probably up there almost with Barron Trump.
For Trump, a vocal election.
I knew he was tall. I didn't know he was that tall.
Denier goes by the Twitter handle, The Persistent.
Oh, so that's the controversial election denier. Okay. Everybody denies 2020 at this point.
He helped deliver that all-important must-win state for Trump, in large part by focusing on, as he says, the Amish, frat guys, and hunters, among other groups.
Brilliant. And
Presler, as our Ellie Reeve reports, is just getting started.
So look at that. Openly, I wouldn't say flamboyant, but obviously gay guy talking about, I'm going to recruit hunters. I'm going to recruit frat boys, young frat college people. That's pretty talented, because those aren't the demographics that kind of lend to this type of person.
Everybody just big smile and look cute. Okay. Cheese.
Scott Presler is the kind of political figure only possible in the Trump era, going from social media influencer to actual proximity to power. Scott! Presler is taking credit for turning Pennsylvania red. He created a PAC, Early Vote Action, to register voters, and targeted the Amish, frat guys, hunters, and other groups. His PAC got a $1 million donation from Elon Musk.
So walk us through how you do it.
When I tell the Amish that they can vote a private, secret ballot that is mailed to their house and they don't have to have their buggy seen going to a polling location, they love the mail-in ballot.
But a lot of people sort of come up as social media influencers and then they fizzle out. And you actually, took the opportunity and started doing something quantifiable.
He was at the Capitol on January 6th.
So that's why it's controversial. Okay. So were a bunch of, a million other people were there.
Trump's return to the scene of his near assassination in Butler.
President Trump took a bullet for us.
Last week,
No lie.
Presler was in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, because of a controversy over what ballots would be counted in the Senate recount. A frustrated county commissioner had said some misdated and unsigned ballots would be counted despite the rules.
If I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
This went very viral, in part because of Presler. She apologized at the next meeting.
The passion in my heart got the best of me, and I apologize again for that. I made a mistake.
But by then, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court had ruled those ballots wouldn't be counted.
Yep.
Presler and his fans had won. Yet they turned out anyway, and the room had a kind of intense vibe.
Do you think the 2020 election was stolen?
It definitely was stolen.
Okay, so can you explain something to me? Why, if they can steal an election, why would they steal it once but not this year?
Because people were on to them. The divisions in the Democrats made it very hard for them to try and steal it again.
That's a fair question and good answer.
To every single patriot that showed up today. I think what you heard today is the frustration of people that have been told they are election deniers, and here we have a sitting commissioner that's an election denier, and we have
This is politics, y'all. I mean, this is it. This is politics. When the Groypers were doing Groyper War II and they were considering going to Michigan, and I don't think that ever happened, but they were considering getting getting on the ground like this, and they can. They've already done that before in the past. Annihilated Joe Kent. They're at events, kind of sprinkled out too. But that is politics right here. That is the heart of politics. Getting involved and moving and shaking and literally shaking people's hands. This leadership.
currently sitting Senator Bob Casey that is also an election denier, and it's almost karmic. And yes, that's why in part we were here to take a victory lap.
And these questions aren't easy to answer when they're trying to do a hit piece on you. And he's like, I just talked about Chase Oliver doesn't go on Libertarian podcasts. He wouldn't go on with anybody. He wouldn't go on with Tim Pool. Tim Pool, you wouldn't go on with Tim Pool? Tim Pool and Comic Dave Smith and get recognition, or, if you are running for president, you want to go everywhere and share your thoughts. It doesn't matter if it's combative or not. And Tim Pool's not going to be combative unless you have a strong opinion on something that's whack or something. He's not a combative dude. And Dave Smith would have had a civil conversation with you. Scott Presler knows CNN's doing this hit piece on him. He's like, I don't care. I'll answer whatever question you want.
I've been told they are election deniers, and here we have a sitting commissioner that's an election denier, and we have a currently sitting Senator Bob Casey that is also an election denier, and it's almost karmic. And yes, that's why in part we were here to take a victory lap. We won, and we did it fair and square.
If we take
Look at the optics. He's pretty tall. They tried to put her closer to the camera, I think, to kind of offset it. And he's just looking down at her and answering these questions like swatting away flies.
that commissioner's words in the worst possible light. Let's say she truly meant rules don't apply and she could count ballots that shouldn't be counted. She still failed to steal the election, right? Like, you guys still won Pennsylvania and Bucks County. So help me reconcile that with your past, with the Stop the Steal movement in 2020. Like, why could it have been stolen once but not a second time?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we let them get away with doing this now, they'll do it in 2026, they'll do it in 2028. This was us peacefully putting our feet down and saying, no, enough is enough, and we're not going to allow you to do illegal and unlawful actions. And we're going to hold you accountable.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hold on to that word peacefully.
Cheese.
I noticed that when you urge people to action,
Yes.
you often include the word
Peacefully.
Is that to avoid another Jan 6 type incident?
With all due respect, it's to avoid people like you guys saying that I'm anything but. My motto is to just be super cute, have my data and facts, treat everyone with love and respect, and as you can see, an army of people will follow.
And it was a small army, which
No, I
includes
said he doesn't throw the gay stuff, and that doesn't count. I mean, it's just obvious. He's like, what kind of nigga is up here saying my job is to be super cute, man? That's awkward as hell, but hey, I like him, man. That's what he is. You know what? Authenticity, man. I don't care if that's the type of bruh you are. If you're the type of bruh to be like, I'm trying to look super cute, then be that bruh. I mean, that's what you are. And I think, like you said, people will follow it. It's being organic. It's being authentic. It's being yourself. This triggered me. She asked him about using the word peaceful and framed it as if Trump supporters, he had to use it because Trump supporters were violent. Bitch, that's not, you know that I know that you know that's not what it's about. It's about you and your network calling Trump supporters basically violent insurrectionists, basically intimating that or leaning towards that every single day since January 6, 2021. And we are going to fight back and push back and win and destroy and make sure that you asshats understand, and not even for you asshats, to me it's for the person that might just, because I do the same thing. I talk about peacefully all the time. If you just jump in and listen to the podcast for the first time, you don't know where I'm coming from or what I'm about. I'm about peace. So I'm going to make sure that I say it and really only rock with people that can say it as well or are about peace. If you can't say that, then I have a problem. Because there's some people who are not about peace, and that's a legitimate thing too, but that's just not for me.
Avoid another Jan 6 type incident?
With all due respect, it's to avoid people like you guys saying that I'm anything but. My motto is to just be super cute, have my data and facts, treat everyone with love and respect, and as you can see, an army of people will follow.
and it was a small army, which included followers of a Korean church led by rapper King Bullethead.
So when you were up there speaking, it almost seemed like you were taking a bit of a victory lap for turning Pennsylvania and this county red.
Absolutely. A lot of people questioned our voter registration. They said, Scott, flipping Bucks County to a plurality of registered Republicans, that's not going to translate into results. And yes, a little bit of the victory lap was here to say that for the first time since 1988, we flipped this county and it voted for President Trump. It's kind of, saying to people, no, we're the real deal.
Presler first got attention in 2017 when he worked for an anti-Muslim group and organized marches against Sharia, despite there being no Sharia law in America. He was also involved with Gays for Trump.
You described yourself as a data guy.
Yes.
But early in your career, you were more of kind of like a social issues, culture war guy, like Gays for Trump or Act for America. Can you tell me about that shift in your career?
I have grown and how I approach politics. I see my work and my evolution in politics as I laid a foundation, and now I am meticulously building on that an esoteric understanding of how politics is going to win elections, focusing on demographic groups, get them registered, get them mobilized, get them out to vote.
Twice, RNC officials have indicated they would hire him, but it hasn't worked out. Still, he's built a loyal fan base.
Have you spoken to President Trump since the election?
I've spoken to Laura Trump.
What'd she say?
Our conversations out of respect to her and the Trump family are private, but she was congratulatory.
And what about Elon Musk?
I think he's a wonderful human being.
Have you talked to him since the election?
We've messaged. Nothing consequential.
God save America. Hallelujah.
Yeah, no, I texted that nigga. He's the richest man on paper in the world, and SpaceX and Tesla and all that. I got him on. I don't know. I might return his text. I don't know. I think he texted me the other day. I didn't even check. I didn't even know. That's the Scott Presler. He's a boss, man. I'm just playing. That's not how he is. That was dope, man. They tried to do a hit piece on him. I actually like that the lady that did it. It didn't seem like CNN. It seemed more like almost like an old school NPR, like when I liked NPR. I don't know who this young lady is, but I actually like the job she did, even though she'd kind of be a little shady, but that's the business. But remember, Scott Presler was on the J6 committee list. He was officially on that list with Bryson Gray, Jack Posobiec, and others. And at that time, I didn't know who he was. I was like, who's Scott Presler? Because I was looking up who all the people on that list. I was like, oh, I see why. Because he could make a change. I won't lie. I mean, I've always supported Scott, don't get me wrong, but during the midterms, it kind of fell apart. Didn't work out with that Wisconsin Supreme Court, and the midterms were terrible. And I did question, like, is his strategy right? Or more, I question not his strategy, because I don't know the strategy like he does. It's almost like one man. It's like one man is the face of the MAGA get out to vote and register movement. And now it's TP USA Action. They deserve a ton of credit as well. But I thought Scott worked with them a little bit too. But, I was like, I don't know if that worked because of the midterms, but obviously it worked. They flipped Bucks County and Pennsylvania went Trump. So props to, I don't know how you can't respect that. I don't know. You don't respect that? I don't know. Let me look to find this topic here. I've been very disappointed in Laura Loomer. I'm going to end this, but it's not even about that. It's more about gratitude for the Groypers. I just think very highly of them. It's just another example of why this happened earlier today. So I wasn't even thinking about talking about it. So I got to go find it. Oh, I got a lot of arguments back and forth on the moonwalk. Not in the mood to talk about it now, but the moonwalk might come up again at some point in the near future. I'm just looking to see if I can find this from today. We're looking at 12 hours. Yeah, we're looking at like 16 hours ago. Damn near 24 hours ago. It's about Laura Loomer. And most of my replies are about the moon. I made a comment, something like, there's a 0% chance that 12 men walked on the moon. And I got a lot of kind of back and forth there on that one, as you would expect. I'm gonna find the replies because I want to tweet it and set it up. I do need to find the quote. Let's see here. This is in regards to Laura Loomer and Nick Fuentes falling out. If you follow the channel, I've been following that closely. I even did a AI voice back and forth with them reading their tweets to each other, which I would do more of if it takes too much time for very little return. Here it is. Okay, so I have it here. So I'm pretty sure this is a Groyper here. It's the only person that would really reply like this is a Groyper, even though they don't have Groyper in their profile. So here's what we talked about here. Nick Fuentes and Laura Loomer fell out. And it fell out because, and I can understand how, because Laura Loomer is a diehard Trump supporter. And Nick Fuentes said, Trump, why would I support Trump when he's basically openly against me? He says he wants to stop anti-Semitism. That's defined by basically Jews. And Nick would be defined as an anti-Semite. Trump not only would never speak at AFPAC, he would never acknowledge Nick, he would never support Nick, he would actively try to shut Nick down as an anti-Semite. So for Nick Fuentes to support Donald Trump would just be a ridiculous asinine position. And I said that before Nick really went hard. Nick has been questioning Trump for quite some time. But before Nick went hard with Great War II and all that, I'd been saying, ever since October 7th, basically, I've been saying I don't know how Nick can support Donald Trump. And then Nick went way hard, and that's when he fell out with Laura Loomer. If you don't know, Laura Loomer is a living legend, independent journalist, formerly with InfoWars, Alex Jones. She's on her own now. She knows how to go viral. She's great at marketing. She is well connected. I don't know how she might have a team of people working for her who vet and search the internet and find dirt. And she is the #1 Trump online influencer. You might not know who she is, but she is. If you don't know who she is, I guarantee you your favorite influencer has gotten a story from her and talked about it. They might not have given her credit. Very similar to what they do to friend of the show, Dr. Carlin Borisenko. They steal. I don't know if I want to call it steal, but because it's not illegal, I don't think. But they take that work and with a lack of integrity, they don't credit very often. So Laura Loomer and Nick Fuentes, they used to be cool, believe it or not, even though she's a Zionist Jew. And yeah, Nick is supposed to be this hateful dude. He's cool with blacks. Like he worked for Kanye running for president. He was friends with the Zion, whatever. But they were cool. And Laura Loomer on that Twitter space, that was a Twitter space. Laura Loomer defended Nick on the epic Twitter space with Jeremy. I think that was the one with Lauren Chen. Pray for Lauren Chen. I hope her and her family are doing well. Lauren Chen, with all the indictment, they weren't indicted, but you know what I mean. Lauren Chen, Dr. Carlin Borisenko both hosted it. And I believe Laura Loomer was in that. And she defended Nick and said, when I ran for Congress and I lost, Nick drove all the way from, I don't know where he was, to where she was. And just was there just to say, hey, support you. You ran a good race. And that's what friends do, basically. And to me, it was a touching story, man. It was just from both sides. For her to be cool with the guy who was very critical of, in generally speaking, certain people that would include her and vice versa. I thought it was a great kind of tag team type of story. And they're both firebrands. So then when they fell out, I was like, man, it kind of, just from afar, I don't know. I trust Nick to do his own stuff. I'm just talking about like from a fan from afar. Trust Nick and Lord. They do their own thing. They're way smarter than me. But just as a fan watching them, it was like, damn. You knew it was like, man, the more it went on, it's like, this won't be repaired. So I kind of replied under it. And Nick is still going, and I get a feeling that Nick is kind of disappointed that it fell apart, but he's moving on from that. But I was kind of, so I'm talking to Laura, and I'm not talking to her, but talking at her, and I'm like, Laura burned bridges to back Trump. She went all in on Trump. She put her career on the line, every reputation, everything. She went hard for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has frozen her out. Donald Trump and their people, they're not giving her anything. They can't give her a bone. They can't give her some type of communications. They can't give her anything. She's frozen out because she's too much of a unpredictable person. She will go after anybody if they do her wrong. Her and MTG are beefing, and so MTG might be trying to influence stuff, and she getting frozen out. So she put her everything on the line for Donald Trump and getting frozen out. And I'm like, so you put everything on the line for Donald Trump. You get frozen out. Nick was right. was proven right. He said it before when you were beefing. He said you weren't going to get a position because he didn't detail it out, but because of who you are, even though you are a Zionist Jew, that's not good enough. Part of it was even that you used to be cool with Nick. That's part of it. So maybe Laura was trying to fall out with Nick to kind of distance herself. And Nick was like, that's not going to work. So you did all that. You burned a bridge. You didn't make any bridges that are overt. For what? It fell apart for no reason. Nick was right. Laura admits Nick is right by her comments. She doesn't say it directly, but she says Trump needs to do this. Trump didn't do that. Exactly the same stuff that Nick was saying. There's nothing for her to lose at this point to go back and say, hey, you were right. Squash the beef. Come on the show. Let's talk politics, whatever. It'd be cool if it was public. Obviously, it could be private or not. So I'm kind of pushing, like, Laura, get over this. The Trump people don't want you there. You burned the bridge for Nick. Now, what did you gain from all that? I don't even understand it. And so I'm still trying to say, let's reconcile with the Groypers even and all that. And a lot of the Groypers never liked Laura. Some were open to her. But, I'm just trying to push for that to come back to the way things used to be. And I said, there's nothing in the way here other than pride. And I am honestly concerned for her because she's like go 110% every single moment. And this doesn't make sense. And she almost like she's going to crash. I don't understand what she's trying to do. But so this Groyper said, F her, dude. Why would you want that? And he called her Jumer. Oh, Laura Loomer, Jumer, anywhere near Nick or the movement. So he's like, bro, what are you talking about? So then I replied, and I was like, you're right, that's fair. I like her personally. I still will support her, donations, and I subscribe to her on X, whatever I'll do to support her and still talk positively about her. She does great work. But that Groyper was right. She's proven herself untrustworthy. I'm done. If Nick wants to do whatever Nick wants to do, that's fine. That was always the case. My take was separate. I will still support her separately, but I will never, I'm done trying to say you burn the bridge, repair the bridge. No, I'm a supporter of the America First movement. I cannot, in good faith, advocate for her to be anywhere near Nick and the movement. So I'm done. And that's just one of the many, examples of a Groyper kind of pushing back at a statement I said, and just like, bro, just stop that. He's like, F her. What are you doing? What's going on? And I agree. I'm done with that. There's no Laura Loomer and Groypers, and it's over. Well, thanks for checking out. I'm gonna be out. 1:19 my time Mountain. But everybody have a great day. We're getting into Thanksgiving. I'm working tomorrow, so I'm working in a few hours. So take a little nap and get up, and then I'll be right back at it. Appreciate y'all for joining. I will. Right now, I'm just going live when I get energized, and we'll do that. Peace.